Imagine, if you will, 3 composers are sitting around a table with cups of coffee. They are all long gone, of course. This is an imagined conversation, but that might have happened if they had gotten the chance to sit down together for a cup of coffee. They are talking about their lives and work. Joseph Haydn, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and Ludwig van Beethoven. Well, it sure is good to see you boys. It's sure been a while. I must say you both did your teacher proud. Well, you get some credit though. It was the training we got from you that really opened doors for us. Upper floors? What's that about upper floors? Pay attention, Ludwig. Your hearing is a mess. If you don't pay attention, you won't know what we're talking about. That hearing problem really was a struggle for you, wasn't it, Ludwig? Well, now that's all over. I will tell you, it was the biggest tragedy of my life. For years, I couldn't even admit I was losing my hearing. It was too embarrassing. After all, I was a composer of music. How could I lose my hearing? People thought I was rude or a crazy man, but I was just trying to hide the fact that I couldn't hear. Yeah, that was a tough one, Ludwig, but if you all had our hardships, I was the toast of Europe when I was a child. Every royal court in Europe knew my name when I was 10 years old. But once I grew up, well, forget about it. No one wanted to know about an adult genius. Really, I was a has-been by the time I was 20 and ended up back in my hometown of Salzburg. What kind of life is that? No, okay. So your dad was a shoemaker. He was a famous musician in his own right, and you were able to make your living as a musician. You had just sampled the good life and wanted more of it. You bet I did. You knew that when I came to study with you. I'll bet you knew I would always be restless. I did, but I also knew you would create some of the most unforgettable music of the era. What about that piece for strings of yours, Eine kleine Nachtmusik? Ludwig, who has let his mind wander. You were always restless too, but with you it was different. You were musically restless. You couldn't stand boundaries. You had to break out and create something bigger and more emotional than anyone around you. That sure was the case with your last symphony, the ninth. Points the finger at us, old man. You were so restless with what was going on around you that you created that format for the modern symphony. If you hadn't done that, I couldn't have written my symphonies, or could he. I guess we were all pretty restless. Maybe that's what a person needs to be creative. A restless spirit. So, I hope you learned a little bit of something about our 3 rock stars of the classical era. Franz Joseph Haydn, who was also nicknamed Papa Haydn because he was the father of the symphony. And then there was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who was a child prodigy, composing music at a very young age, and was pretty much a star of his time. And then Ludwig van Beethoven, who pushed boundaries and is actually the bridge between the classical era and the romantic era, which comes after this. So he was his music was much more emotional, and he composed the Ode to Joy that we heard. And he also went deaf before, towards the end of his life, and that's what he said. He said people thought he was crazy or just was being rude because he couldn't hear them, and he didn't want to admit that because he was a famous composer and musician, and he didn't want to admit to people that he just couldn't hear. Okay, so make sure that you keep watching a little longer clip of Vedrai Carino, which is from Mozart's opera Don Giovanni. All right. Till next time, boys and girls. Vedrai Carino, si buonino, chi mi rivedio, ti voglio dar. I naturali non da disgusto e lo speciale non lo sa far, no, non lo sa far, no, non lo sa far. E un certo balsamo che porto addosso, darete posso, se vuoi provar. Saper vorresti dove mi sta, dove mi sta. Sentilo batere, toccami qua, sentilo battere, sentilo battere. Toccami qua, sentilo battere, sentilo battere, sentilo